What's up, golf sickos? Welcome back to Dan on Golf, presented by Knockaround. I am joined, as always, by my, ready for this one, vice captain.
Hey.
It's a little bit of
playing captain?
Vice plan. It's a little bit of a Ryder Cup joke, a little bit of foreshadowing. This is our 20th episode, which is really exciting. Thank you to everybody. Yeah, a little clap from the control room and everything. I want to thank everybody who's watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're gonna keep pumping. We're really enjoying doing this. Hell of a show for you guys today. We're gonna recap the Travelers Championship. We're gonna make some Ryder Cup picks. You know, these have been like way too early picks. Now they're only just too early picks. We're starting to get to crunch time. We got my man Short Game Chef Parker McLachlin is on the show. But we're going to start with Keegan Bradley, Captain Keegan Bradley. This was the year's last signature event. There's still a major championship and 3 playoff events, but last signature event, and he wins it. His 8th win, his 2nd Travelers Championship win. And now he's got a decision on his hands. If it was a pure golf decision, it's really not a difficult decision. There are not 12 Americans who are playing better golf than Keegan Bradley is right now. He's number 9 in the data golf ranking. He's number 7 in the world rankings. He's the 5th highest ranked player in both of those. 5th highest ranked American, I should say, in both of those. So only Scotty Scheffler, Bryson DeChambeau, Justin Thomas, and Russell Henley. Those are the only ones who are ranked ahead of him. He's ranked ahead of Colin Morikawa and Xander Schauffele and Patrick Cantlay and JJ Spawn and Sam Burns and literally every other American golfer whose name is not Scotty, Bryson, JT, or Henley. So we're going to talk to him about the choice that he has to make with the Ryder Cup. But we're going to start with his victory on Sunday. This was a 4-horse race really for most of the day. There's an appearance from Scotty Scheffler. Rory McIlroy was up there. But this was Tommy Fleetwood going for his first win against Jason Day, Russell Henley, and Keegan Bradley. Russell Henley and Jason Day, they faded with bogeys down the stretch, though Henley did chip in on 18, and he almost made the playoff. I think that kind of went under the radar that if Keegan missed that putt, it was going to be a 3-way playoff. So
what a chip, dude.
Yeah, what an incredible chip. This guy's got a little bit of a knack for chipping in on Sundays. Remember 14, I think it was, at Bay Hill when he beat Colin Morikawa? But Keegan's 3 back going to 15. He makes a 36-footer for birdie to get to 14 under, so he's 2 back of Fleetwood. And that's after he made a 64-footer on number 9, which is the same length that JJ Spawn made. You know how we talked about when a shot is so famous and iconic that it becomes like the Bryson, like a 50-yard bunker shot? I think JJ Spawn like owns long putts right now.
I think Jim Nantz made it so, because I think he called it a JJ Spawn.
I mean, he was like, do we know anything about 64 feet? And then he made it. So, I mean, if you make a long putt, you're basically JJ Spawn, which is amazing that he has that sort of real estate in the game right now. Yeah. That's what happens when you win the United States Open. The guy just owns long putts. But so Keegan makes that putt, but Tommy still has a 2-shot lead. They go to the par 3 16th. Tommy hits one clean over the green, bungles the chip. Jason Day had the same chip, I think in the group ahead, and he hit it to about this far. He went low, kind of skipped it into the hill. Tommy decided to try to carry it over the hill with spin. It didn't spin, rolls all the way to the front. He makes bogey. So he's got a 1-shot lead going to 17, drives it in the bunker on the left side of 17. Then he hits a hell of a shot. And we were talking on the watch along, like, this is the shot right here. We thought this was the shot. It was probably a 7-iron, maybe an 8-iron over the water. Really scary shot. And he hits it perfectly pin high, 20 feet, makes par. You're thinking he's going to win the tournament. You're especially thinking that as he heads to 18 with a 1-shot lead and then hits one right down the center. Clubs down at the last second with his approach and hits a really indifferent approach to like 40 feet. Keegan plays next, hits it to 6 feet. And Tommy hits, in that scenario, the worst lag putt possible. Because not only was it over 6 feet from the hole, but it was directly on the same line as Keegan's. It was a very similar situation, coincidentally, to JJ Spawn and Victor Hovland from the week before. So they're tied at this point. They both have putts to finish at 15 under. And then here we were on the watch along. And before we play this watch along clip, electric watch along on this channel. Yeah. We had over 1,000 people watching. We had 2,000 during the US Open. The chat is flying. A bunch of golf sickos making a bunch of inside jokes about golf. It's the best. Here's my reaction to watching Tommy's heartbreak and Keegan's triumph. Tommy Fleetwood, to avoid making 2 bogeys in his last 3 holes, he missed it. Tommy had a 2-shot lead on 16T. He bogeyed 16, and he bogeyed 18. And now Keegan Bradley has 5 feet 8 inches on a putt that he just saw to win the tournament. This is huge, guys. This changes the whole Ryder Cup conversation. This is another near miss if Keegan makes this in Tommy's resume and he had a 3-shot lead to start the day and a 2-shot lead on 16T and oh, man. But one man's trash is another man's treasure. Keegan Bradley from 5 feet 8 inches to win the Travelers Championship for a second time. Keegan Bradley wins the tournament. He wins the Travelers again. And I'm going to say it. This guy's got to be on the Ryder Cup team. You can't tell me there are 12 Americans who are playing better. What a way to win this tournament. He was out of it, made 2 absolute bombs, and Keegan Bradley birdies the 72nd hole, and Tommy Fleetwood makes a bogey, and that is a Mongolian reversal of the umpteenth degree. Keegan Bradley is your winner at the Travelers, and this is tough for Tommy, man. This is tough. This is really, really tough. This is going to be a tough one to come back from. Bogeyed 16, bogeyed 18. Keegan's going nuts. How can you not want this guy's energy on the Ryder Cup team? He cannot sit there with a straight face and say that there are 12 Americans who are playing better than him, who care about the Ryder Cup more than him. Keegan Bradley, a note of commiseration for Tommy Fleetwood. That is really, really tough to swallow. What do you think? He's got to be on the team, right?
I think a couple things. First of all, the pain on Tommy's face that they showed there when he takes his hat off and he's rubbing his face.
Well, he's got an expressive face to begin with.
Already, yeah.
Like he's always smiling, and he has like very, those blue eyes, those gentle blue eyes. They're very expressive.
But it was just very evident pain you're watching, like pain that you can feel. I also feel that they cut immediately to Keegan aim pointing the 5-foot putt that you just showed him the exact line on. That's got to sting a little bit extra watching a guy aim point from a few feet away. And then, I think he has to be on the team.
Well, so speaking of that putt, I mean, before we hop into my interview with Keegan, let's take a close up of Tommy's putt. I actually didn't notice this at the time. I was watching Game 7, and my buddy of the NBA Finals, and my buddy pulled out the clip, and I was like, oh, we got to talk about this on the show. I didn't see it, so here it is. I think it hit something. I mean, you can see it starts like right center, boom, right there. I think it was still breaking right. Like, I think it might have still missed, but if you can see right here, boom.
I don't think that was going to miss.
You think that was going to catch the right side and go in?
I think he hit it firm enough that looks online, and that very clearly threw it off. Like, that is devastating.
Yeah, that's devastating. I don't even know if he realized it at the time. But
I hope he doesn't see that.
I hope he doesn't. He's definitely seen it. I mean, it's just a really rough finish for Tommy. 16 under to start the day. He shoots 2 over. He bogeyed 3 of his first 4 holes and 2 of his last 3. It's just not good enough.
I think I heard a stat. He was like the only guy in the top 25 over par on Sunday.
I mean, we saw it, these guys who are playing the best. We saw it the week before at the U.S. Open, guys who are playing the best in the field, and then Sam Burns shot 77 on the final round, and Adam Scott shot 79. So there's this, when you have to finish it out, you start playing differently. But what a great week. Super fun to watch. And this is what signature events are about. I mean, I asked Rory early in the week when I was at Travelers, how do you feel 3 years in or whatever it's been that the signature event model is working? And he says, I think it is working. If you look at the tournaments we've had, you look at the winners we've had. It was a fantastic show the week after the U.S. Open. And here I am catching up with Captain Keegan Bradley. I know you're not going to tell me if you're going to be on the Ryder Cup team, but can you look at me with a straight face and tell me that there are 12 Americans who are playing better than you right now?
Well, I'm going to do what's best for the team, Dan. I don't know what that is going to be.
But you're going to get to a point where guys are going to be like, dude, we want you to play.
Yeah, I understand that. And this certainly does change what my thinking was. I was never going to be on this team unless I won. So this definitely is going to alter some decision-making. But we still got 3 months to go, so we'll see.
We've talked about, you and I, about your upbringing, your background, how, you were fighting an uphill battle to make it to the PGA Tour. You got 8 wins now and a major championship. When I say that, what goes through your head?
It's so insane. When I won, I got to 6, and I have this like personal goal of I want to try to get to 10. As like that's crazy, but like let's try. And I can't believe it. I really can't. That's a ridiculous number, and I'm really proud of that.
Is there anything about this year and about, I don't know, maybe you've had to be more strategic about, like, is there any, because you were made the captain before you won BMW, before you won this week, like, it's obviously started something. Is there a relationship there?
Well, I think, it was a year ago tonight that they asked me, so it's exactly a year. But I think I have had this, the only time I can get away from this Ryder Cup thing is when I'm inside the ropes playing a tournament. And I've seen some guys in the tour that have these crazy chaotic lives, and then they play great golf because they get inside the ropes and things quiet for them. And I think that has definitely played a part of it.
I know you're such a competitor. I know you're so locked in. What'd you make of the battle with Tommy down the stretch?
Well, I really genuinely feel for Tommy because I know he's been fighting his whole life to do this, and he had an unfortunate finish, but he played great all week. And I'm really proud of the shots that I hit in there because there was under some extreme pressure, and I executed those shots perfectly.
And then last thing before I let you go, I know you're not going to say any declarations here. Do you have a contingency plan in case you do decide or you do play?
Well, I'm definitely going to still be the captain. That I'm not stepping down or any of that. I put too much work into this. But I do have incredible vice captains that before I said when I definitely wasn't going to play, I didn't have any of these guys. And now that I've been around them, and Jim Furyk and Sneds and Kisner and one more to come, I feel a lot more comfortable with that.
Congratulations, man. That was so much fun. You closed it like a boss.
Thanks, bro.
So we actually learned a few things there. We learned that he's not going to give up being the captain.
Right.
It sounds like even if he does play, which is a little bit different than what he said before, where he's felt like he doesn't feel like he could do both. Now he's sort of open to the idea. He also felt like he was not going to make this team unless he won. So it just shows you how big that one shot was, right, down the stretch. And I was thinking, if he does play, right, who does he sort of, because he maybe won't be the captain, but he'd have to sort of designate someone to make the decisions, I guess, when he's out on the golf course. What about Kisner? Because he's mentioned Furyk kind of first when he talks about his assistant captains, but Furyk was the exact captain that the PGA of America was trying to get away from. Mm-hmm. One of these old-timer guys who, isn't the same generation as the guys who are on the team. I feel like Kisner, yes, he's stepped into this broadcasting chapter, but he's 41. It wasn't very long ago that he was playing in all these events with these guys. He's got that same sort of like fire and charisma.
Kind of a sweet spot,
right? Like I feel like he would be a pretty damn good replacement and still sort of fill the characteristics of the captain that the PGA of America was trying to get. So it's starting to look more possible.
I think this brings up and has only brought it more to the forefront a really interesting question about the Ryder Cup, which is how important is the captain at all?
Yeah.
Right? If you have a guy like Keegan Bradley, isn't it comes down to the guys on the course more often than not.
Captain can't hit a shot. Captain can't hit a shot.
How important is that role? Does it matter? Or if it's an emotional leader like Kiz, is that all you need?
Yeah, well, I think the most important thing the captain does is the captain's picks, right? Like who's going to be on the team. But you're right. I mean, a lot of especially now with how much data they have and all the data guys they have, like those guys do a lot of the work when it comes to pairings.
It's data and it's a group of people, not just Keegan sitting in a room.
Yeah, it's not one guy. It's not like, I don't know, the Walker Cup. Even them, they probably have support. But one of these smaller tournaments where the captain is making all of the decisions, there's a whole infrastructure that surrounds them. But you're absolutely right. I mean, Steve Stricker, because they won in Wisconsin, he's like the greatest captain, right? And Zach Johnson, I mean, we talk about the picks, but because they got blown out, he's sort of the enemy. It's the ultimate like hindsight position,
yeah.
and it is, they're not calling plays, they're not telling the guys, what clubs to hit, they're not giving them swing tips.
I guess one thing that comes to mind though, and I'm going back on it, is if Keegan plays and remains the captain, then that creates a conundrum in his mind if he plays poorly, that he's like in a twisted mental state. Right?
Yeah, it adds a layer of pressure.
How do I reprimand myself for this?
Yeah, how do I bench myself?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there hasn't been a Ryder Cup playing captain since Arnold Palmer.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? Not since Arnold Palmer. And that was a long time ago. You know
what's sad about that? That means we kind of missed our chance for Tiger to be a playing captain.
Yeah, well, it was never a thing. The captain was never a play. Like, it was a guy who had earned it with his career in golf.
Yeah, it was like an emeritus title.
It was an emeritus title, and the PGA of America, they have a situation on their hands that they created.
Yeah.
I mean, I was looking in, and I was looking, because he said it was a year ago today when they asked him to be the captain, which amazing secret keeping, because that didn't come out until well after that.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, I was expecting them, like Keegan, to have been like 40th in the world when they picked him. He was 19 in the world when they picked him. So this was a distinct possibility.
Yeah.
But I don't think that when they made him the captain, this was not on their radar. And he actually said in his press conference, not with us, but his press conference, that he was he was never going to be on this team. Like, he just wanted to be the captain. It's a great problem to have, but this is not it's no one's fault except for like maybe the PGA of America for picking a guy. And we all lauded the pick, and I still think it was a good pick. But this was had to have been part of their calculus when they picked him, but they thought probably that he wasn't going to make it. They thought he was a little bit past his prime, and he's won 2 massive events since. So
it's almost as if you were a guy with an unpacked back suitcase in your closet, and you got tapped by the PGA of America to be the captain. It might motivate you to be a better golfer in general.
Yes, he wants to be the captain, but also, like, he's wanted to play in the Ryder Cup so badly ever since he played in his last one. So,
but even just the acknowledgement from them, like, hey, you're our guy and the captain, and you can earn your playing spot, like, that's got to, like...
Well, he knows he's going to be there no matter what. He knows he's a part of it. He's an integral part of this, which I think everyone's expecting to be as far as coverage and viewership and on the ground at Bethpage Black with those fans. Like, I think everyone's expecting this to be sort of a Ryder Cup, an unprecedented Ryder Cup as far as just
for the ages,
how big it feels. And he knew that he was going to be involved in that no matter what. So, yeah, maybe that did take a little bit of pressure. Tommy Fleetwood's also going to be at the Ryder Cup. He's always a lovely guy. Spoke with media after. And this was a good perspective, saying he's only taking the positives. Here's Tommy Fleetwood.
The most stupid thing to do and the worst thing to do would be make a week like this a hindrance to what you do going forwards. I obviously played great. I put myself in a great position. I was leading the tournament of 71 holes. I just want to, make sure that I can put myself in this position as soon as possible again, and try and correct what I did this time. But like I say, right now I would love to, just go and sulk somewhere, and maybe I will do. But there's just no point making it a negative for the future, really, and take the positives and move on.
So he's got 42 top 10s now without a win, which is the most of anyone without a win since 1983. He is not struggling this year, but we are sort of 3/4 of the way through the season, I'd say. No more signature events, but this is crunch time, and there are a lot of guys who are at risk of sort of a lost year, just a bad year all around. And these are some of the guys, we're going to go through them, that are on the struggle bus. Struggle bus.
Beep, beep.
Beep, beep. You don't want to be on the struggle bus. All aboard the struggle bus, but you don't want to get on. We're going to start with Min-Woo Lee. So he won his first PGA Tour event this year in Texas. So it's not been like a horrible year, but we keep waiting for him to make that leap. And I think we were going to see it after he won. He was on the show saying he had so much confidence going into the Masters. Then he finished 49th at the Masters, missed the cut at the PGA, missed the cut at the U.S. Open. And that 49th place finish that he had at the Masters is actually his best in 7 starts since the Masters. Whoa. He turns 27 next month, so he's no longer like this young, up and comer. It's time to develop, and it just hasn't really happened. He's number 88 in the Data Golf rankings right now. So not been a good summer so far for Min-Woo Lee. Next, we have Max Homa. So there were some positive signs at the Masters, a tie for 12th. He also almost made it into the U.S. Open carrying his own bag. That got a lot of press, but even he said at Augusta that it didn't feel like super solid, super sustainable. Since then, he's gone 70th at the RBC Heritage out of 72. Tied for 30th at the Truist out of 69. T60 at the PGA Championship. T51 at the Memorial out of 72. Miscut at the Canadian Open. And then T54 out of 72 at the Travelers. Since the Masters, he's combined 14 over par in 22 rounds. He's 116th in the FedEx Cup standing, so he's in serious danger of missing the playoffs. Only the top 100 go to the playoffs, and he's miles off the Ryder Cup conversation. So there were a few positives, and we all want to see Max get back, but it hasn't been a sustained run of success since the Masters. Next,
what's weird about that? Sorry to interrupt. But
no, don't interrupt. You're on this show, my friend. You're the vice captain.
It feels like
that's kind of the design here is that you chime in. You don't have to apologize.
You're on a roll, man.
Yeah.
It seems like he's had good Thursdays and Fridays throughout that stretch, so I'm actually shocked to hear those placements at the end and those missed cuts.
Well, I mean, the PGA was a good example. Like, he was up there. I think he shot like 4 under the first round and then just like slowly, slipped down. 72 holes.
Driving the struggle bus.
72 holes is a long time. Yeah. Also aboard the struggle bus, it's a little harsh, but for his standards, I'm going to say Ludwig Åberg. Another guy who won earlier this year, but it's been a strange year. He won at Torrey Pines. He wins the Genesis, and you're thinking, I said on the show, I feel like the next person to unseat Scotty Scheffler and to get to number 1 in the world was going to be Ludwig Åberg.
Your Masters pick.
That was my Masters pick. He had no negatives in his career, not even like a semi-negative up until this year. So he's number 26 in Data Golf, which is really low for him. He missed 4 cuts this year, including the Players, the PGA Championship, and the U.S. Open. He was middle of the pack at the Travelers. He'll still be on the Ryder Cup team, but the short game has been very, very poor this year. He's 146th in strokes gained around the green and 123rd in strokes gained putting. So you watch a guy like that swing it, and you wonder, how is he not top 5 in the world his entire career? Well, probably it's not his swing. It's the short game that has been the issue.
There's not enough variable in his swing.
There's no. It's just jit, and the balance. Yeah, that's my official review of Ludwig Åberg's swing. Is jit. Matthew Pavone. We're getting a little darker here now. So Pavone got his tour card through the DP World Tour in 2023, and he had a fantastic rookie season on the PGA Tour. Last year, he won Torrey Pines, tied for 12th at the Masters, 5th at the U.S. Open. Remember, he was in the final pairing with Bryson DeChambeau on Sunday at Pinehurst. Made it to the Tour Championship. He's fallen off a cliff this year. He's outside the top 300 in data golf, and his best finish in 18 starts is a T42 out of 70 players at the RBC Heritage. So he's not finished in the top half.
Another one that surprises me a little bit.
Yeah.
You're used to seeing his name again.
Well, he was great last year. Another guy whose name you're used to seeing is Tom Kim. Global superstar.
Even more so. Yeah.
Global superstar, as he was referred to on Netflix. Not by me, I want to make clear. I don't know. I think I was maybe asked to say that, and I said, I'm not going to say that. Just turned 23. He's a 3-time winner on tour, but he's having a very poor year. He's number 94 in data golf and number 84 in the FedEx Cup rankings. Just one top 10 on the year, and it came all the way back at Pebble Beach. So this is a reminder that, for all these young guys who have success, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be, a Scotty Scheffler or Xander Schauffele or a Justin Thomas who's there every single year. It is so hard to just not have these lulls. And the perfect example of that is Nick Dunlap. This is our last Struggle Bus member right now. Another guy in the category of already a winner, 2-time winner. He won twice last year, but showing how hard it is to be consistent. Remember, he should be a rising senior at Alabama, so he's still so young. Never really did not plan to turn pro as early as he did, but obviously won as an amateur on the PGA Tour, had all the signature events coming his way, and he won again later that year. So it was definitely the right decision. But we saw this at the Masters, a serious regression. He shot 90 at the Masters, but it started before that. He missed the cut at Bay Hill, the Players, the Masters, PGA, the U.S. Open. He was T66, which was dead last among guys who finished 72 holes at the Travelers, or 5 withdrawals, which I think was a little bit of a symptom of post Oakmont. Mm-hmm. Second to last at RBC Heritage. I'm not going to say he's got the driver yips, but it's close. His driver stats, he's dead last on tour. Dead last in strokes gained. He's losing 1.579 shots to the field per round with his driver. Not good for a young kid. Driver's supposed to be the club that they do a lot of their damage with. So all these guys need to get hot to make the playoffs. They've got a couple of events left. Big major coming up. Scottish Open coming up. But yeah.
Should we say something nice about each of them?
Yeah, let's say something nice about each of them.
I think Minwoo Lee.
Minwoo Lee's like the swagger.
He's just cool.
He's very cool.
The coolest guy on tour, man.
Max Homa is beloved, and the tempo. I love his tempo.
Will always be too.
Ludwig Åberg. I'm still like
generational. Perhaps.
Like if I have to take someone for the next 10 years, he's still in the top 5. Matthew Pavone is my favorite person from France.
That's right.
I've said that to his face.
Spent some nice time with him in the Bahamas this year.
I've said that to his face. I've said, Matthew, you're my favorite person from France. He also donated something very nice to my charity auction, to my charity golf event that I'm having July 23rd. This is nothing personal. I like all these guys, but they're having bad years. They tell you that themselves.
Just saying, let's balance it out.
Tom Kim is a global superstar.
TGL had a great TGL this year.
He's a global superstar. And Nick Dunlap made history.
Mr. 90-71.
Well, no, I'm talking about winning on tour as an amateur. That was not nice. You brought up his 90.
No, we had him dog of the week for that.
Well, he was dog of the week, but 90-70 would have been a lot cooler. Yeah. But my positive for Nick Dunlap is that he made history. He's the first guy since 93 to win as an amateur on the PGA Tour. So that's forever. Okay, we are going to jump into a segment that we call the Knockaround, presented by Knockaround. These are the love and hates, a new color though. Yeah. The other ones are like a gold frame.
Yeah.
These I think are smoke. I want to say.
I like those a lot.
Yeah, these are good. These are good ones, and they're amazing quality. They're $35, which is incredible. When you feel these, they feel just like something 10 times the price. And we've got a promo code for you guys. If you go to knockaround.com, use the promo code DanOnGolf20, you get 20% off your first order, which brings these under $30, which is crazy. I'm just telling you, the quality of these sunglasses for the price, you can't do much better. And they're the presenting sponsor in the show, so we love Knockaround.
That's not a cart that you have one pair of sunglasses in, ever.
What'd you say?
That's not a shopping cart you would ever have one pair of sunglasses in.
Go
3 at least.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're used to spending $150 on sunglasses, go buy yourself 4 pairs.
Stock up.
Yeah. All right, we're going to start with Minjee Lee, Minwoo's sister. In fact, I think Minwoo is Minjee's brother, because she won the KPMG LPGA Championship at PGA Frisco, which is a course we're all going to get very familiar with very soon, because it's about to start hosting PGA Championships a lot. Mm-hmm. That's her 3rd major championship, but they've all come at different majors. So she's 60% of the way to the career Grand Slam. Can I just say, by the way, the LPGA having 5 majors and the seniors having 5 majors, you know what I think about that, Andy?
Utter woke nonsense.
That is utter woke nonsense. 5 majors?
I think it's sexist. You're going to make these women and ageist, you're going to make these old guys win one more to get a career Grand Slam?
Yeah, it's 5 times. There's 4 majors. Let's just that's across the board. There are 4 majors. 5 majors is utter woke nonsense. Also, she has a long putter, which again I don't blame her, but it was pretty close to her chest, and I'm not a fan of the long putter. But fantastic performance. Not everyone loved the way the golf course was set up. So Sophia Popov did not like the setup very much. Here's what she had to say about it. I'll start by saying a big thanks to KPMG, increasing purses. With that being said, the PGA managed to set the golf course up to make us look silly and incapable the majority of the time out there. 6-hour rounds in brutally windy conditions with pin placements that were mostly inaccessible. Playing 30 to 40 feet away from the pins all day is not enjoyable to us, nor to the spectators and viewers at home. Disagree. Unfortunately, I barely missed my spots both days and it ended up being very costly. Someone forgot to tell Austin Kim that it was designed to embarrass because she shot a bogey-free 68 in the final round. This is just I don't love this mentality. Like, even if you feel that way, don't verbalize it. Don't make it real. And, everyone played the same golf course. The winning score was under par.
We're a little over a week out of what was a maybe 2-week-long discussion about how awesome it was that Oakmont was going to make people look silly. This is what fans want.
Yeah,
they want to watch people act like us out there.
I think she totally missed the mark. Wyndham Clark apologized for his antics in the Oakmont locker room. Here he was Thursday at the Travelers.
I've had a lot of highs and lows in my career, especially this year, some lows. And, I made a mistake that I deeply regret. And I'm very sorry for what happened. But I'd also like to move on, not only for myself, but for Oakmont, for the USGA, and kind of focus on the rest of this year and things that come up. I still want to try to make the Ryder Cup team. I'm on the outside looking in for the FedEx Cup, and so I'm starting to move on and focus on those things.
I noticed he issued a public apology when he flung his driver into the T-Mobile sign.
Yeah.
Maybe because T-Mobile signs his checks.
It's on his hat.
Because he didn't issue an apology until he was asked about it. I was waiting for the apology or the denial. Right? We talked about this early in the week. Like, if it wasn't him and the story wasn't true, the denial would come out right away.
Right.
So once the denial didn't come out on Saturday or in the middle of the tournament, then you knew it was true. And I would have, Notes app would have been like potentially appropriate.
I was going to say that was very clearly written for him, and also he slipped in, I'd like to move on. Yeah, I bet you would.
I bet you would. Yeah.
Imagine if I showed up
vandalizing a historic locker room is probably.
Yes, the vandalism charges are true, but Your Honor, I would like to move on.
I'd like to move on. Yeah, no, I know that I'm going to have to do my time and stuff, but let's just move on from that. Tiger Woods and Fred Ridley took a trip to the Patch at Augusta, where Tiger's building a short course in a learning lab in Augusta. Ben, review the fits immediately.
Fred Ridley looks like how we don't want golfers to dress anymore. Tiger Woods.
You don't like the cleats?
I might actually have that exact same pair of pants. I just, looks warmer out there than he needs to be wearing those. And Tiger looks like Tiger. I think I actually just got that Sunday red shirt. It's like a light blue, and it has a perforation on the top. It's really slick. If you see that shirt up close, it's a good one.
Okay.
Way to go, Kat.
There you go. Nice little impromptu.
It's not the shirt I thought, but it's also cool. I like that.
Nice little fit check right there. He's wearing a whoop. Notice that the chairman's wearing a whoop.
Chairman's wearing a whoop.
He's also mic'd up. Cool that Augusta is a huge part of the Tiger Woods story, and for his name to be attached sort of to the club through this initiative at the Patch and with his learning lab, I think it's a nice move all around. Live Golf announced performers for the year-end tournament in Michigan: Swedish House Mafia and Imagine Dragons. That is like my high school dream, and it's just
Imagine Dragons should be the official band of Live Golf.
It's just so much money that they're spending to put these concerts on. Like, you know how much money it must be to book Imagine Dragons and Swedish House Mafia?
Do you know how many people in Michigan are going to be fucking stoked?
Yeah, no, it's just like I saw those names and I was like, what? I mean, they do this a lot. When they were in Australia, they had like Fisher and all. They spend a lot of money. Live Duels airs today on the Brian Bros channel. This should bode well for Wesley's suspension for the PGA Tour. They both got invites, both Brian brothers, to play in the BMW International Open on the DP World Tour. Very smart move from the tournament director. That will bring a lot of attention to that tournament. I've said this before on this show. I think it's only a matter of time until Wesley's on a Live team. I believe that. DJ and Brooks got in on the Peas celebration. The Panthers won their second straight Stanley Cup, and Brooks Koepka named them the Peas. He gave them the Peas nickname, which is pretty cool. I don't know if anyone was calling them the Peas.
I don't think so.
But that's cool. Here's Dustin in the locker room spraying some champagne. He knows what he's doing. He's done that before.
Been there.
Miguel Angel Jimenez continued an excellent year on the PGA Tour champion. 61 years old. This was a major, apparently, at Firestone Country Club. It's woke as hell. 4 wins for him this season on the PGA Tour champions. That's his 3rd major that he's won on the PGA Tour champions. Here he was on 18, and this holster move that he does is very sick. Makes like a 15-footer on 18. And then watch this. Up to the sky like a Inigo Montoya, and then holster that thing. That was a gentle one. Sometimes he does it with a little bit of, there it is.
Subtle.
He loves it.
I feel like it was just 2 weeks ago we were watching him do this.
Yeah,
he's on fire.
He's been on fire. On the Corn Ferry Tour, 259s this week. Adrien Dumont de Chassara. You like that? From Belgium.
Really well done.
Yeah, that was good. A University of Illinois grad. And Miles Creighton. And Miles Creighton wound up winning the tournament in Wichita. There he is, Canadian fellow. 68, 68, 59, 68. So interesting scores. He was apparently 1 over for the tournament through 27 holes, and then played his last 45 and 18 under.
We're on a Knockaround trophy streak right now. I feel like every Corn Ferry
You like that one?
for the past 5 weeks has been awesome.
What is that?
It's a propeller through a plane.
Oh, I didn't realize what it was. I thought it was like a paddle of some kind.
You could use it as a paddle.
Yeah.
I think that's sweet.
That's what propellers look like? I want it to be a little bit
very small plane.
I was going to say I want it to be a little sturdier than that. that looks like,
solo man.
If that's the propeller on my plane, I don't know that I'm getting on. We're going to finish with the Northeast Amateur at Wannamoysit in Rhode Island. This is a par 69, which is nice. Preston Stout of Oklahoma State, 2-time reigning Big 12 champion. He won the individual the last 2 years, got it done. Won by 9, but I wanted to draw some attention to the next 2 guys on the leaderboard. In second place, Miles Russell, the top junior in the country. Remember, this is not a junior event. This is for amateurs, college players. Miles Russell finished second. In third, John Daly II.
No way.
Yeah, so good action at the Northeast Amateur. And speaking of Miles Russell, it's him and Charlie Woods are being recruited as we speak. June 15th.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
June 15th, it started that they could talk to college coaches. So some big decisions in the college golf arena coming up. All right. We are going to have a good friend of mine, short game chef Parker McLachlin, is going to join us live on the line right now to talk about some short game stuff. Parker, how we doing, my friend?
How we doing, Dan?
We're great. I can hear you loud and clear. So tell me who's in your stable, and do I make the cut?
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's like Sam Burns, Keith Mitchell, Dan Rappaport.
Yeah, it's exactly right. How'd you get the name Short Game Chef? Like, did people call you that when you were on tour?
No. It was something I came up with. It was sort of just barely pre-COVID, and a caddy friend of mine was like, dude, your short game is ridiculous. Let me film some of you giving some tips to people, and I'll put it on Instagram. And I was like, dude, I'm not even on Instagram. And so he filmed about a dozen tips, and then he said, all right, now you got to come up with like a good name. And I'm like, I can't just use my own name. He's like, no, come up with like a catchy name. And so anyway, I knew that my whole page was going to be about short game, and so I had to be short game something. But I felt like short game guru, short game wizard, short game genius. It all felt very self-serving. And so short game chef came into my head, and I was like, oh yeah, chefs they give away food, they give away recipes, they tell people what ingredients to put in there. And that's kind of the short game.
Well, I think, short game is we've talked about this, a great thing to teach, because golf swings are everyone's is so different. But what you do is a lot more about technique and a lot more generalizable, if that makes sense. Like, what's your experience been like teaching short game versus some of the swing coaches?
Yeah, there's so much that can be going on with the full swing. With the short game, it's much more like, okay, let's read the lie, let's make a plan of attack, and within that plan of attack, there's certain areas where you want to be with your body motion, your club face, how the path is going, and all that kind of stuff. So to me, I see the short game very clearly. When I look at your golf swing when you post it on Instagram, I look at it and I'm like, it looks awesome to me. I don't know where I would even start with trying to give you a tip.
Yeah. Who are your favorite short gamers to watch on tour?
Ooh, I like to break them into separate categories, as far as certain pitchers and then certain bunker players. Because I think that short game is two separate sort of families that don't really agree with each other. Does that make sense?
Explain the differences.
So in a pitch shot, I love a Cam Smith, Jason Day, Steve Stricker. I love how these guys use their body to make a pitch shot off of a fairway lie. Now, if you go and look at like a Phil Mickelson, a Luke Donald, they've got a lot more sort of hinge and a lot less sort of body movement, right? And they're amazing out of bunkers, flop shots, thick rough. And so I like to sort of separate when I look at short game, I like to sort of separate it out and be like, I like to take this part of this player and I like to take that part from that player. And that would sort of combine into my ideal short game player.
I got to ask you about this like shadow beef that we've got going on with the Steep Brigade, with the, Joe Mayo. I feel like every post is like kind of subtweeting you in a sense and talking about like, all this misinformation. What do you make of these sort of differing approaches to short game?
Yeah, I mean, there's been differing approaches for a long time. I remember when I was on tour, the guys, the stack and tilt guys, they came out onto the PGA Tour and they had some success. And then, and I think Joe and Grant Waite, they were kind of doing that stack and tilt as well. And it was positive for some people, and some people really didn't like it at all. Different strokes for different folks. I think that the steep versus shallow, I mean, it's the most ridiculous sort of argument of all time or debate of all time, because there's so many different shots that you're playing around the green. And really, when you look at what is steep, it's really based on your ball position. It's based on your center of mass and where that is in relationship to the golf ball, your low point, and how the club is working as an arc. And so I can make the exact same swing and put the ball position forward in my stance, make the exact same swing, like almost a putting stroke, and put it 3 inches further back in my stance. And one's going to read 2 degrees down. The other one's going to read 10 degrees down. That's just how the devices are measured, are reading, sort of where are you contacting the ball in relationship to the low point of your arc.
So you're not anti-steep. You're just saying it's different times when it's necessary.
Yeah, I mean, I think a PGA Tour player, if you're going to hit 12 to 15 degrees down on a shot, I think a PGA Tour player is going to hit that shot 10 times in an entire year. I think that every PGA Tour player that I've worked with has come to me and said, I want to be able to, inside of 30 yards, I want to be able to flight it slightly higher with similar spin. That's much more of a useful shot than the one that's going extremely low and has a bunch of spin. To me, most greens are a bit built up and crowned, right? And in the past 10 years, since, Pinehurst with Martin Keimer, it's become really, really in vogue to shave off the sides. And now you've got all these shaved off areas, these lows, where you have to pitch the ball up onto the green and get it to stop fairly quickly. If you're trying to hit a low one, launching it at 26, 27, 28 into and try to carry it onto the green, the ball's not going to stop for another 20, 30 feet. So you have to be able to launch it slightly higher and have similar spin. So to me, it's important to have all the shots around the green, but for someone to, be saying, hey, this is the only way to do it, I don't think that's telling the whole story.
Ground first. It's been sort of, when I was growing up, that was the enemy, but you and I have worked on, sort of joke calling it the Duff spinner. Talk to me about, tour pros almost using the ground to their advantage. I know Derek Dominski and Chris Como were like sort of looking into this from a physical, like a physics perspective.
Yeah, I mean, we've all sort of hit those shots where it's like, oh, I just barely mishit it, and this thing comes out ripping more than you could imagine. And it's really, really interesting, because I'll even get players that will come to me, good players, that will have like 4 degrees of bounce, and they'll come in and they'll hit it slightly behind the golf ball, and this ball will take off and it will go up and it will have no spin. I'll put them in like a 10-degree bounce or a 14-degree bounce. They hit the exact same shot, ball comes out with a ton of spin, launches a bunch lower. It's sort of like, how are you engaging the ground beforehand? Obviously, not every shot is ground first, but also not every shot is ball first. It's like, depending on the trajectory that you really want to hit it, you can kind of make your determination. And obviously the lie makes a difference too, but you can make your determination. I'm going to go ball first. I'm going to go ground first. And I think it's important. There's a lot of players that understand how to go both ways. And that's an important thing to do, because when you do hit that slightly higher one with some spin on it, you're going to hit the ground first. You're going to graze the grass before. And so you better understand the mechanics of how to do that.
Do you use launch monitors? I know that, in swings, that's everywhere. I know that, a lot of guys like to see the attack angle. How much are you using launch monitors in your work?
I do it mainly for my own sort of testing. Like, I'll take it out there. I'll take my Foresight quad out there and I'll test just different heights, trajectories. How is this ball landing when it reacts on the green, and how far away is it going? So if I am hitting it from 20 yards and I'm launching it at 26, where is the landing spot, and then where is the finishing spot? And then if I'm launching it at 34, 36, now what does that do to the landing? What does that do to the finishing spot? And it's super helpful. So like when I do take it out there with players that I have, and a lot of tour players shy away from it inside of 30 yards because we are hitting so many different types of shots. But some of my amateurs from 30 to 70 yards, we're definitely using that in practice. And it's just really funny because they all hit a shot and I'll be like, yeah, that one launched at 32 and had about 6,000 spin. And we look at the thing and it's like, oh yeah, it launched at 32.6 and had 6,200 spin. So it's like you can start to really see it and be able to tell what's actually happening.
Did you watch the finish yesterday?
I could not believe what happened.
Okay, so there was two pretty much identical chips from long of 16. Jason Day hit a low one that was perfect, and Tommy tried to go upstairs. What'd you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Tommy, it's like sort of that one where you're talking about it, like the Duff spinner. His was more of like a mishit. It wasn't necessarily like he was trying to go ground first and like really spin it. His was a little bit more mishitty. You could almost hear it. Jason was trying to land it, like hit it a little lower, but landed into that upslope. Jason's probably launched around 32. Tommy's probably launched around like 40, 42. And, you could, I mean, it was really interesting to see the two different shots and how they reacted on the green. I actually thought before Tommy hit it, I was like, if he can take that hill out of play, he could definitely go high with some spin and get this thing to grab and really trickle down to the hole. Obviously, he didn't pull it off the way he wanted to, but I did think that was the right shot to hit.
Well, that's been one of my biggest takeaways from working with you is low. I think you start to hit some flop shots and they're a little bit of a drug. They're a little bit intoxicating. But, and I grew up on Kikuyu, so you can't always land it short. But, you see these guys when they're playing Bermuda or they're playing other grasses, Scotty Scheffler is one who I think of. I want to hear kind of your review on his chipping. But I feel like these guys, a lot of the best ones, they do look low a lot more than amateurs do.
Yeah, and I would say the inside of 30 yards, hitting it, launching it at like 26, 27, 28 is really low. We're talking like that's below your knee. It's kind of like shin height. So the perception is, hey, it's low, but if it's sort of like waist height, that's probably still launching at like 32, 33, 34, even though it seems low. Now, when you start going from like 30 to 70 yards, now all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I want you to be able to start launching it sub 30, because that ball from 70 yards versus 20 yards, that ball from 70 has a lot more time to launch low and then really climb. And then the descent angle is able for that thing to grab. But if you're chipping it from 20 yards and you're launching it at 26, this thing does not have time to climb. So the descent angle is really low. So if you're thinking about it, if you're hitting a 20-yard shot and you're launching it at 26, the area from where it's going to land to where it's going to stop is probably 9 to 11 yards. So if you're playing to a front pin or a pin tucked over a bunker, you're not really going to be able to hit that shot. You're going to have something that launches slightly higher. We saw Rory. I posted a couple of Rorys on Saturday where he launched them a little bit higher. He didn't have much green to work with. And those I've seen, like Rory's numbers, he launches his stock around 32, 33, 34. And so the ones that he was hitting on Saturday, probably around 34, 35 as far as his launch angle, but he's getting that ball to stop within that 4 paces from front edge of the green to the pin.
Yeah. So it's all about matchups. Now you got a question? Yeah, you got a question. Go for it.
We saw Rory hit I don't know if you would call this a chip or a pitch, and I forget what hole it was, that he hit it right and he was in the dirt and he got to clear all that brush around.
He was on the par drivable par 4 15.
15. So he drops it, and that lie there is obviously much better than what it was when it landed there. But what's a tip you can give an amateur who's going to find themselves in that position way more often than Rory McIlroy?
Yeah, like
hit out of that dirt.
Off those like dirt, sort of like wood chippy lies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so that was probably like
Ball
a 50-yard shot. You know, that was a hard one. I was amazed that he hit that so good. But that's obviously like, you got to go ball first. You got to go ball back in the stance because you don't want that debris to get in the way. And obviously, you know, it's like if he were to hit a little bit behind it, it would come out like a bunker shot and really soft. Now, he could have potentially played it that way if he like, let's say that pin was way closer to the front to where he was, he probably would have played it more like a bunker shot. But because he had a bunch of green to work with, he was able to throw that thing back in his stance, drive it in there, have a bunch of spin on it, and it was able to kind of one big bounce, second bounce, and then grab. But if that pin was in a different spot, if that pin was like front right and he had to hit that same shot, I bet he goes smash, you know, like get like a sand wedge and smash it and play it like a bunker shot. So the lie plays into it a lot, and also where the pin is located plays into it a lot as well.
Parker, I would not forgive myself if I did not ask for our viewers, what is the biggest flaw you see with amateurs in their chipping, and one thing that if they're headed to the golf course they should think about?
Well, I would say people think of chipping too much like a miniature full swing.
Don't chase compression. That's what we had to talk about.
Exactly. So I would actually like really encourage people to change their grip. So if you're a normal like interlock grip, I would change it to like something like more like a putting stroke grip, just to sort of trick your mind if you're one of those types of players that you find yourself like, I'm always trying to hit it. I'm always trying to compress it. I'm always trying to get good contact. Change the grip. That will change your mindset to think, all right, you know what? This is more like a stroke. This is not as much like a hit.
Yeah,
soften the ball speed.
You don't want ball speed.
Soften the compression.
Yeah, you don't want ball speed. Well, everyone likes that sound, right? Of like a crisply struck 8-iron. That's not the sound that you're looking for in chipping. All right, we have a promo code. So if you go to shortgamechef.com, which is your membership site, and you use the code DOG50, it gets you 50% off your yearly subscription. Guys, if you've seen Parker's content, this is a no-brainer. Use the code DOG50. We've got a couple videos on YouTube of us working on Short Game. The comments are unbelievable. People are saying it's changed. I mean, I've got a chipping green in my backyard, so I do work on this a lot, but my chipping is, if there's one part of my game that I feel like is you know, could compete, it's the chipping. So thank you so much for joining us, Parker. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Cool. Good stuff. All right, we're going to start a brand new segment brought to you by our friends at Bushmills Whiskey. I am very, very excited to kick off Charting Your Own Course. This is a segment where I'll be sharing my stories from tour events, interviews, interactions with fans and players, just like I experienced last week at the Travelers Championship, watching JJ Spaun emerge into a star before our very eyes. Now, I've talked about how before JJ's win, the guys who had won the last 6 majors was Scotty, Xander, Bryson, Xander, Rory, Scotty. Those are legacy guys, right? Their lives don't really change. Their legacies might change, but their lives don't change. Their status on tour change. Watching JJ Spaun get congratulated by literally every single player, you know, that's not the reaction that Scotty would get for winning a major. It would be like, well done. You know, this is what you do. But JJ took the media tour to New York. He soaked it up. He closed with 63, which I thought was super impressive. But just so cool to see a life change before our eyes. I mean, all the kids were yelling for his name, JJ Spaun. Keegan Bradley talked about him like he's already on the Ryder Cup team. He said, we can't wait to have him at Bethpage. He's, you know, the crowd's really going to resonate with him. He got a pairing with Scotty Scheffler right off the bat. So he's elevated himself into a totally new category. And it was just really cool to be on the ground and see. It is a family on tour, you know. There's these guys travel from city to city, and especially with like the signature events, it's all the same guys who are playing in all these same events. They see each other all year, and just to see JJ show up and be the sort of the coolest kid on campus when he finally got there was really cool.
I think it says something about who JJ Spaun is, because if that were Bryson, for instance, or Rory, the people going up to him might feel more like they're clout chasing.
Yeah.
Like, none of those stars need to congratulate JJ, but they're like, this is a guy I feel good about going up to and dapping up.
It was just it was like a heartwarming moment. And, you know, Bushmills charting your own course. Sorry, I messed that up. Bushmills charting your own course. I mean, that's what JJ's done through his whole career, right? He walked on at San Diego State, Played on the Mackenzie Tour, was thinking maybe my career is over, and then decided that he was going to go out swinging if he did go out, and ends up winning the United States Open and is going to be on the Ryder Cup team. So a big thanks to Bushmills for making the charting your own course experience possible. Cheers from all of us and from Bushmills Whiskey. We are going to move on to Give Me a Winner. We're back. We're so back. Rick is not back, and I said that he only had one
excused absence,
get out of jail free card. So this is, what was it in college when you it was like this is 3% off his final grade.
Oh my gosh.
So we've dropped from a 100 to a 97. It's okay. We're still in the A.
However,
he had a good week.
It was a week. Yeah.
He had a really good week. So we had Sepp Straka to win the tournament, which, we didn't have to worry about that. Almost finished last. We had Keegan Bradley top 20, won the tournament. We had Jason Day top Oceania, plus 330. That hit as well. So do we have what we are? Yeah, we're up 18 units. And I'm telling you guys, this is like almost a full season and we're up this much betting on golf. We haven't hit an outright in a while, but we're treading water with solid weeks like this. And this is how it goes in golf. We take long shots on winners. That's where we're going to make our hay. If we can get one more winner before the end of the year, we are going to be up a ginormous number. And we've got a pre-record because Rick is traveling. We got the Rocket Mortgage this week. Let's hear from our man, Rick Gaiman.
All right, fellas, Detroit Golf Club, last year before the restoration, this is bomb and go find it and hit it again, and no really regard for where it goes off the tee. So we're going to see a trend in some of these wagers here, and we're starting with a winner who is a prolific runner-upper, and that is Cameron Young. 35 to 1 is where that number has opened on Monday morning, and he's been on a great roll since the miscut at the Masters. He's got the T7 at the Truist, back-to-back T4 finishes in Canada and the U.S. Open, and he struggled a little bit at TPC River Highlands last week, which makes sense. That's a golf course for precision, not power. Complete opposite end of the spectrum here. Think about the past winners and guys that have had success at Detroit Golf Club. Cam Young fits the mold to a T. So looking for him as the winner. Backing up a little bit on the board, something in the top 20 range would be Max Grazerman, who is this really unique skill set on the PGA Tour. He's one of the few guys that gains a lot of strokes off the tee and gains a lot of strokes with the putter. So the ability to gain against your peers with the driver, get it out there, get off to a good start, and then make enough birdies to win the Rocket Classic. That's a very unique skill set. Max Grazerman has been playing phenomenally, hasn't missed a cut since the Houston Open. His advanced metrics are starting to trend in a really strong direction. And I actually think there is room to squeeze more gains out of the putter, something that he's been a little bit inconsistent with as of late. But these Detroit Golf Club putting surfaces are pure and they are easy to make putts on. And then finally, to end our trio of big boppers, Goddard, something in that top 30 area for Chris Goddard feels like a really good place to deploy him. Haven't seen him since the U.S. Open. He finished T23 there, played well over the weekend, gave a couple back late, but very happy with that result for Goddard. And now he has 6 top 25 finishes in his last 7 starts. I mean, he has just been really piling up a lot of good play. We're clearly in the best stretch of golf that he's ever played in his career. We're asking him to continue to play up to that caliber on a golf course that should be a really good fit for him. So we're going from precision last week to power this week, and we'll see if we can match the resuls. All right, fellas. Thank you.
All right, we're going to let the big dogs eat this week.
That's kind of a sicko card right there.
That's what I took out of that. Well, Max Grazerman is a buddy of mine. Chris Goddard was one of the best college players when he was the last class before PGA Tour U, so he didn't get to go straight to the PGA Tour. And Cameron Young, would sort of continue the Tommy Fleetwood storyline. He's probably, outside of Tommy Fleetwood, might be the best player, most accomplished player without a PGA Tour win.
Check your lines for ball marks, Mr. Young.
Seriously. If you've got a putt to win, make sure that you don't do what Tommy Fleetwood did. Okay, we're going to do a blind ranking.
Yeah.
You're going to walk us through the category.
Yeah. So this was inspired by something that's going to come later in the show. You put something in Slack this week that made me think this would be a fun category.
How cool was that, by the way?
What?
That thing that we're going to show later in the show.
Well, we're going to preview it right now, basically. So we're going to rank former tour event names.
former tour event names.
These
so
tournaments,
the tournament might still exist, but this is their old name.
It's called something else now.
Okay.
And I just want you to rank them by like which name you like the best. What's the most
baby.
entertaining name out here?
All right, old tournament names. Let's go.
First up, we have the National Car Rental Classic at Walt Disney World Resort.
I was going to say Tiger won this, didn't he?
He sure did.
That's pretty sick. That's an early Tiger victory. I'm going number 3 with National Car Rental.
Tiger just swagging in this photo, too.
You know, National Car Rental has been replaced as the official car rental of the PGA Tour by Avis.
That's right.
Just saying.
That's
not an ad. I'm just, when you know, you know.
Next one's a little weird. I didn't actually look into what this is, but the Anderson Consulting World Championship of Golf. I want to know who Mr. Anderson or Mrs. Anderson is.
I like the Strata hat. That's given me a
here we go.
Anderson Consulting World Championship of Golf. It's not really doing it for me. It feels very suity.
It's a little corporate.
World Championship of Golf is a very ambitious name. Kind of sounds like World Golf Championships, which we used to have, which we also don't have. Mm-hmm. So I'm going number 7 with Anderson Consulting. And then I'm gonna do a little abbreviation here.
Oh, you can abbreviate all
World Championship Golf. Okay, we got 3 and 7 locked in.
All right, another one of my personal favorites of all time here. The Miller High Life Quad Cities Open, which is now the John Deere coming up.
This is going to be number 2 for me. Miller High Life, I feel like it's been a while since we've had like a beer sponsor of a title sponsor.
Come through, Champagne and Beers.
You know what I'm saying? And Quad Cities Open. I love a Quad Cities. There's 4.
There's 4.
It's not the Twin Cities, it's the Quad Cities. And yeah, this just feels like, this feels like quintessential sort of like 1980s PGA Tour. So I'm going to abbreviate everything. MHLQCO. MHLQCO. It's funny. I saw How to Train Your Dragon this weekend, and I was abbreviating it to HTTYD all weekend.
You do that with Married at Last Sight in Australia.
I do. I love like very nebulous abbreviations that don't actually make it any easier to say, like HTTYD. How to Train Your Dragon. Okay, continue.
I get it. All right, this next one is now the Cognizant Classic, and I think this was like a very popular one. No.
Oh.
Jackie Gleason's Inverary National Airlines Classic.
That was pre-Honda then?
Correct.
What's an Inverary?
Couldn't tell you, but there's Jackie Gleason.
Do you guys know what an Inverary is? An Inverary?
I do have the internet.
Okay, I'm going number 5 here just because that's a freaking mouthful.
Oh, Inverary is a neighborhood in Lauderhill, Florida.
Oh, yeah, of course. All right, what was it? Jackie Gleason?
Jackie Gleason's Inverary National Airlines Classic.
How did you find these? Okay.
Wikipedia is a beautiful.
So wait, is there no National? Well, National Airlines doesn't even exist anymore.
Exactly.
Wow, that's a throwback. Okay. Wow. So we got 2, 3, 5, and 7. I have absolutely no idea where we're going next.
Our next one's a shout out to our finance bros, the Shearson Lehman Brothers Andy Williams Open.
Lehman Brothers, bit of a rough go. Bit of a rough go. I don't know if they're still around.
They used to have the cash that's
Kmart, is that what it says?
Oh, we jumped ahead.
Wait, what is the?
I jumped ahead. I do this every week.
It's okay. What's the one that we're looking at here?
Kmart Greater Greensboro Open.
Okay, we're gonna do Kmart Greater Greensboro Open. So this is the Wyndham Champion. I think that's Rocco Mediate.
It is Rocco Mediate.
That's a sick photo. Kmart Greater Greensboro. We're going number 4 with that one.
How cool was that sign too? Mediate will play from the sand first, then Elkington. It's like okay,
that was thanks. That was ShotLink before ShotLink. They probably thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that probably was.
Kmart Greater Greensboro. Nice alliteration there, Greater Greensboro. Okay. Yeah. So we've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. I don't know what I'm ranking these on, but we're moving along.
How do you feel about the names? That's how we're ranking them. The Shearson Lehman Brothers Andy Williams Open is back.
Okay, so now we're at the Shearson.
Now we're at the
Well, it feels like Shearson Lehman Brothers.
Can you pack into it?
Andy Williams Open. Yeah, it's like law firms. They would just say everyone's name. I'm going number 8 with that, just because it's again, Lehman Brothers. They screwed over a lot of people, I think. Okay, Shearson Lehman Bros. Andy Williams Open, number 8.
All right, now we get a trio of names and lights. The Canon Sammy Davis Jr. Greater Hartford Open.
This is the Travelers, isn't it? Sammy Davis Jr. Yeah, I think so. Hartford Open. That looks like TPC. Does that look like 18 at TPC River Highlands?
Yeah.
I don't know if it is, but it sure looks like it.
Looks like it.
Is that Sammy? Is that Sammy Davis Jr.?
Far right.
He's going number 1 because that's just an iconic name. Canon, which also I believe, are they still around?
Yeah, the camera company.
They're still making cameras.
Oh,
Cannon, Sammy Davis Jr., Greater Hartford. Oh, the names were just so long.
They're long.
They're law firm ass names.
Here's the longest one on the list.
Okay, here we go.
The Humana Challenge in partnership with the Clinton Foundation.
Bad. Don't like anything about this.
Utter woke nonsense.
Political, utter woke nonsense. Get politics out of my sport.
That's right.
In partnership with the Clintons. That's, I'm just going number 10 on that
There's
one.
the jazz man himself.
I just don't like that. I just don't like, we're let's not shit where we eat type situation.
What did you leave open
We've got 6 and 9 open. Nice. Yeah.
All right, the Walt Disney World Oldsmobile Golf Classic.
Oldsmobile,
Going back to Disney World.
Another defunct. Tiger again. Tiger used to love
Tiger with
Disney,
Tigger.
huh? We're going with Walt. That's going to be number 6, Walt Disney World Oldsmobile. Those are gone, aren't they?
No, I don't. Well,
There's
I don't know.
no more Oldsmobile, bro.
They're gone. My dad drove an Oldsmobile.
They might still be on the road, but there's no dealerships.
That was my dad's car growing up, like a gray Oldsmobile. It was like the original childhood car.
What a bad name. Oldsmobile. Why don't you name it Newsmobile?
Newsmobile.
Yeah. Anyways, 9.
And then so what do you have open? Where's this?
We got number 9.
Number 9, the manufacturer's Hanover Westchester Classic.
Well, I kind of
tried to put a dud at the end. So
I kind of wish this was. I kind of wish this was higher because the Westchester Classic used to be a big time stop on the tour. They play Westchester Country Club, nice in New York. I would have liked to go to that tournament. So I'm putting in number 9 just because that's what I have open. Okay, we
didn't do a progress check, so we're just going to run through them.
Progress check. We got the whole thing. This is going to be really difficult for me to. Okay. At number 10, we have the Humana Challenge in partnership with the Clinton Foundation. Correct. Utter woke nonsense. Number 9, we have Manufacturers Hanover something Classic.
Westchester
Classic. Number 8, we have the Shearson Lehman Brothers Andy Williams Open.
Correct.
Number 7, we have the Anderson Consulting World Championship of Golf. Number 6, we have the Walt Disney World Oldsmobile Golf Classic. Number 5, Jackie Gleason's Inverary National Airlines Open something. Number 4, Kmart Greater Greensboro Open. That's a good one. Number 3, National Car Rental something with Disney. I don't remember. Number 2, Miller High Life Quad Cities Open. That should have been number 1. And then number 1, we have the Cannon Sammy Davis Jr. Greater Hartford Open.
We should have ranked them by how hard they are to say.
Oh my gosh. There's just so many words. Now we just have like the Century.
Yeah.
Or like the American Express.
That's right.
It's amazing how times change. Branding, less is more. Less is more sometimes.
More on this later in the show. Wow, that was really something. Getting weird.
What was your research process for that?
I Googled I had the whole list of every tournament that's ever existed, and I just scrolled through alphabetically until something
and just
stopped.
I saw
Sammy Davis Jr.
It's funny, the only one that popped into my head was Honda Classic. Because it's Cognizant, and you went even before that. All right, good stuff, Ben. Thanks. I like that. Okay, so we're working with MasterCard. We're bringing you all beyond the ropes. We've got 2 of the best golfers in the world on the PGA Tour, Shane Lowry and Victor Hovland. We're going to be analyzing your golf swings. All you have to do is post a video of your swing with the hashtag Beyond the Ropes. We did this at the Travelers. It was super fun. Hashtag MasterCard Sweepstakes. Hashtag Beyond the Ropes and hashtag MasterCard Sweepstakes for a chance at a one-on-one lesson with a pro player at the Tour Championship. Did you hear about this, Ben?
I heard you showed them our swings as well.
It's pretty cool. Well, I thought this was going to be a surprise, but apparently it's not. What you didn't hear about was that I actually had them take a look at your golf swing. Let's watch.
Oh, it's part of the show?
Yeah. We got a bonus one here. This is my co-host, and his name is Ben, and this is Ben's golf swing. It's not the best angle in the world, but
we can see some stuff. Ben looks like he's all right, but he looks like he kind of hits like a scoopy fade.
Yeah, Scoopy is a fair word.
Ball position too far back, and his hands are too much behind the ball at address. I don't mind him hitting a fade, but you'd like to see like more of a pressure fade.
It's not bad.
Not bad?
I think he's okay. How does he play?
He's like a 7.
Yeah, I could see that. That looks pretty good.
All right, Ben. Big day for Ben.
Yeah.
Thanks, Vic.
What do you think?
That's awesome.
So you're pro Victor, anti Shane Lowry now?
Shane's wrong. I don't hit a scoopy fade.
You don't?
My miss is left.
Okay. So there you go, Shane.
Screw you, Shane. Thanks, Vic.
Eat it, Shane. MasterCard is giving creators access to the sports they love, and I certainly love golf because when creators get closer to the action, so do you. Bringing fans beyond the ropes, priceless. All right. Dog of the week. We've got a good one. I actually submitted this one. Usually a little peek behind the curtain. Sometimes Andy submits the dog of the week. So this one was a Dan submission for Dog of the Week. It's Ethan Fang. So Oklahoma State They stay hot. They won their 12th national championship. Preston Stout, we talked about earlier in the show, won the Northeast Am. Ethan Fang goes over and wins the amateur, not the British Am, because that's woke nonsense. Don't say that. It's the amateur. So he's into the Open, he's into the Masters, and he's into the U.S. Open next year. But the reason he's our dog of the week is he's a one-dimensional player, and he owns it. Here's Ethan Fang.
Hi, I'm Ethan Fang from Plano, Texas, and I'm 20 years old. Definitely a cut. I can't hit anything but a cut. Yeah, just a medium cut out there. High draw, because I can't hit the high draw. It's very difficult for me.
Scott Fawcett somewhere is dancing with glee. So much talk about shaping it both ways. Just play your fucking shot.
Well, how about that video?
You're not Tiger Woods. What'd you say?
The video you took at the national championship, wasn't every player you shot hit a fade?
Yeah. But I mean, you're not Tiger Woods. Know your shot and play it. Double crosses are what kill you in golf. Trying to hit a draw and then hitting a fade, or trying to hit a cut and then hitting a hook. That's what kills you. If you can work it both ways and never double cross, you're a really damn good player. And okay, you can work it both ways. But if you can't do that, stick to your shot. If you're self-conscious, I don't have a draw. Remember Ethan Fang. This guy's going to be playing in the Masters. He's going to be playing in the U.S. Open. He's going to be playing in the British Am. He's playing at Oklahoma State. That's the golf school. That is the best college golf program. And he can only hit cuts. So stop trying to be someone that you're not. This is our dog of the week for just owning who you are as a golfer. Shout out to Ethan Fang. We're going to move into our Ryder Cup picks. We've done a couple of these throughout the year. We've kind of checked in after the majors. I felt like now would be a good time after the U.S. Open, after the Travelers Championship. We've done a couple with James Gregg. We've done a couple with Luke Kerr Dineen. We've got Luke Kerr Dineen back on the show. Luke, how are we doing, my friend? Whoa, nice background.
Oh, my God.
Thank you. I chose it just for you, Dan, except now that I'm in the middle of this, it kind of looks like they're all kind of holding me up.
Yeah, you're the guy. You're the guy. You look like Medusa with all these like heads coming off of you. And we're getting close now. Three quarters of the majors are done. 3 out of the 4. We're through the signature events. So we're starting to, we started doing this, I want to say, in like February or March, and it was so far in advance. We had no idea. There were a bunch of names who are not in the picture anymore, and there are guys like JJ Spawn who were totally off our radar who are now, basically locks to make the team. So I expect us each to have at least 10 out of 12 correct at this point. I think we're getting to that point. So I'll go first, then you go with your next one, and we'll go 1 for 1 throughout the entire 12 on each team. I'm going to start with Scotty Scheffler. Real shock here. I know you're looking aghast at that pick. Number 1 player in the world, number 1 on Data Golf. He's got 9 finishes in a row of tied for 7th or better. Don't really feel like I need to say more. The best player on the planet's on my team.
Yeah, I feel like you're going to have the frothy waters here. There's a lot more going on the American side than the nice and stable European side. But top of the order for me is Rory McIlroy. I know he's been going through a little mid-Masters lull, but I think he started to perk up at the very end of Oakmont. He's going to get up for it at Northern, with his Open coming to Northern Ireland, of course. And, I think, like I said on the last show, I feel like Ryder Cups have kind of become his North Star of his career now. I think this is what's going to get the juices flowing again for Rory.
You talked about him kind of rounding into form. He had a top 10 finish at the Travelers and then the U.S. Open the week before. I was just so surprised, or I think it was kind of a perfect example of just how talented this guy is. They did an interview with him after Saturday at the U.S. Open. He's completely out of contention. They asked him, what are you looking for on Sunday? He says, I want to play in 4.5 hours and get out of here. It doesn't sound like a guy who's ready to grind out every shot. He shoots 67 at fucking Oakmont on Sunday of the U.S. Open. Like, with 1 foot out the door. That's just a reminder of how generationally talented this guy is. My second pick, Bryson DeChambeau. Already a lock to me on the team. Probably going to make it on points, but I'm very interested to see what happens at the Open. He's coming off an MC hammer at Oakmont, which was very surprising, given he'd contended in 5 straight majors on U.S. soil. His record in the Open it's the worst of all the majors. He's got 1 top 10, a T33, a T51, a T60, and 3 missed cuts in his career. So it's his worst major by far. Obviously, he likes to hit the ball really high in the air, and he's just kind of, his game is sort of the opposite of what's necessary at an Open. But the good news is that this Ryder Cup's not being played at Royal Port Rush. It's being played at Bethpage Black. I think it's a perfect course fit. Bryson's my number 2.
Yeah, Victor Hovland's my number 2. Maybe a little surprisingly high, but I really am just loading up on Hovland's stock. I think he's figured out something really big in his golf swing. He said as much early in the week at Oakmont, and he went on to play really well. It has to do with his backswing. We can get into that later. But the spark notes here is that he's kind of figured it out. It's getting better and better. And it's just these odd drives that every now and again pop up. That's the last missing piece, and there's plenty of time to figure that out before the Ryder Cup. I think he's going to be storming into form by the time we get to Bethpage.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the first tee shot he hit on Sunday at Oakmont that almost went out of bounds. He kind of gets under it and hits this like wild right ball at some points. All right, my third pick is Xander Schauffele. Not quite on the struggle bus. He's still number 3 in the world rankings, but he's down to number 15 on Data Golf, which is pretty low for Xander. This was an amazing stat to me. He's played at 9 U.S. Opens. He's finished T14 or better in all 9. That's amazing. But a bad week at the Travelers. Hasn't finished better than T8 this year. And remember, this guy won 2 majors last year. So 2025, started with the injuries, been sort of a strange year with Xander Schauffele, but he will be there at Bethpage.
I'm put Tyrrell Hatton at third. Obviously, had a great week at Oakmont. He finished in the top 15 of the Masters. He won at the turn of the year. He's turning into a real little kind of not just a really dependable bulldog. And I think he's going to really thrive in this like adversarial atmosphere. And Bethpage, good pairing with Rahm. Like I think checks all the boxes for me.
It's going to be box office watching him go back and forth with those fans. My fourth is JJ Spawn. Earned it. U.S. Open champ is going to be on the team. If you just sort of zoom out, the 4 biggest events that have been contended so far, which are the 3 majors and the Players, he has shot the lowest 72-hole score in 2 of them. Obviously lost to Rory in a playoff, but he had a 30-footer to win that tournament. So he's shot better than, no one shot better than him in half of the biggest events this year. So he's definitely on the team. Closed with a 63 at the Travelers, finished T14 after a really hectic period between the U.S. Open and the Travelers. So yeah, JJ Spawn's going to be there.
Hatton's partner, John Rahm, is next up. I mean, I feel like Rahm has really hit his rhythm this year. It was a weird year for him last year with everything going on, but he finished T14 at the Masters, T8 at the PGA, and T7 2 weeks ago, at Oakmont. And again, just a guy who I feel like settled into this new environment that he's in, and just a locked-on member of the European team for years.
I like their first 4 better than. I like our number 1 better, but they're so solid. It's scary. Colin Morikawa. 8 straight starts without a top 10, which I don't love. Some of these guys in sort of like the middle tier, outside of Scotty, aren't playing their best, like a Cantlay, like a Schauffele, like a Morikawa. I would even, throw Justin Thomas in there, even though we're going to get to him very shortly. New caddy on the bag. His putting has been pretty poor the last few weeks. Colin typically goes as his putting goes. I was disappointed. We both talked about him, Ben and I, as a kind of a sleeper pick for the U.S. Open at Oakmont. He finished tied for 23rd and had just a terrible, terrible putting week. But he's been pretty good in the President's Cup and Ryder Cups, and just so steady. Very good for foursomes. You can depend on this guy.
I actually like my number 5 a little more than that too. It's Ludwig Åberg. I know he's gone through a little bit of a wobble recently, but I think this is a form as temporary, class as permanent situation. I mean, there's not an element really of Ludwig's game on paper that you can mark as a huge room for improvement. I think he's going to go through waves because that's golf, but he has everything, and he's going to be such a stud for us.
Justin Thomas is my next pick. He's been a different player in the majors versus the non-majors. So in the majors so far this year, tied for 36th at the Masters, miscut at the PGA, miscut at the U.S. Open. He's going to the Open Championship, which was the only major that he doesn't have a top 10 in. So it could be a loss year in the majors. But in the non-majors this year, he's finished 2nd at the Amex, tied for 6th in Phoenix, tied for 9th at the Genesis, 2nd at the Valspar. He won the RBC Heritage, tied for 2nd at the Truist, tied for 9th at the Travelers. So this guy loves PGA Tour setups. He was actually talking about the setup at Oakmont a lot and saying how it would have been like impossible if it was dry. But yeah, he's been a totally different player in the non-majors than the majors. But Justin Thomas, again, emotional leader. He's playing better than he was a couple years ago when he got the pick. So I fully expect him to get the call.
Tommy Fleetwood is my next up. Obviously, Heartbreak.
God, they are solid. 1 through 6 is really solid.
Really solid, Dan. You better get worried. Tommy Fleetwood. He's just our generation's Ian Poulter. That's the best way I can describe it. Maybe his tour record doesn't match his giant of a record in Ryder Cups, but you can depend on him to make the winning putt in Ryder Cups, to carry a team, do whatever he needs to do. I mean, I'm so incredible Ryder Cup.
Yeah, he's got different energy in the Ryder Cup. I even think about yesterday, we were talking about like Keegan's body language on 18 versus Tommy. It looked like the hunter versus the hunted. I think Tommy looks more like the hunter when he's playing in the Ryder Cup. My next pick is Russell Henley. He's righted the ship. So he won early in the year, biggest tournament of his win, started working with Mark Blackburn, missed the cut in the first 2 majors, and then Mark Blackburn was talking about on this show how they stopped working together because he was so concerned about the Ryder Cup. He didn't want to he didn't want to make these big changes. He's bounced back. So since he missed the cut at the Quail Hollow, tied for 5th at the Memorial, tied for 10th at the U.S. Open, tied for 2nd at the Travelers. He was good in the President's Cup. Another guy like Colin who, can play with anyone, especially in foursomes. So Russell Henley, Georgia Bulldog is my next pick.
Sepp Straka's my next pick. It's a slight concern that he's missed the cut in these past 2 majors, which in some ways are pretty comparable course fits to Bethpage. But that said, he's just been like clockwork kind of on a week in, week out basis. Obviously won the Truist and then finished in the top 3 at Memorial. So I think he's locked on at this point, getting a spot on this team.
Yeah, he's got two big wins this year. He won early in the year in the desert, and then winning again at Truist. I think that locked him on. Sam Burns is my next one. Great to see him jolt back into form. I don't think he's been on any of my lists before, but his last 8 starts, T13 at the RBC Heritage, T for 5 at the CJ Cup, T30 Truist, T19 PGA, T12 Memorial, 2nd at Canadian Open, tied for 7th at the U.S. Open where he was the 54-hole leader, tied for 17th at the Travelers. Might be the best putter in the world, and I think he's a great bet to make it because of that putter. I've wanted Denny McCarthy to be on this team for a long time. I'm just not seeing quite enough. And I feel like Sam Burns kind of fits that mold of the putter on the team.
Yeah, I got Bobby Mack as my next pick. Kind of vaulted up the rankings after his good Oakmont showing. I think, in all honesty, this is the part of the European team where there are spots up for grab. Nobody's quite seized them. And I think just Bobby Mack playing well at Oakmont has almost solidified his spot there, and if not, very much put him high up in the mix.
Andy, can we show what Bobby Mack thinks of the pick that you just made? Bobby Mack likes that pick. My next pick is Patrick Cantlay. We all know my frustrations with this guy. Streets are calling him can't play in the majors. T for 36 at the Masters, miscut at the PGA, miscut at the U.S. Open. Actually, the same exact major record so far as Justin Thomas. They both tied for 36 at the Masters. Then both missed the cut in the next 2. But then you look at, the ones sort of sandwiching those majors, tie for 12th at Memorial, tie for 12th at Travelers. He's just a check casher. He was good at the last Ryder Cup, got into it with Rory McIlroy. He was good at the President's Cup. I think Cantlay will be there.
Yeah, Aaron Rai is a guy who I think divides a little bit of opinion on the European side in the sense that I don't think he's sneaking in here in a lot of European teams. To me, he's absolutely is, and that's because of the profile of his game. He's so good from tee to green. He's so accurate off the tee.
Yeah, hits it really straight.
You compare him with any number of players, he'd do well.
Yeah, he hits it really straight. That is definitely an asset. Ben Griffin is my next pick. He just has this confidence, this big confidence. 2 wins this year. Just look at the stats. He's number 11 in data golf. Top 10s at both of the last majors, at the PGA and the U.S. Open. Tied for 14th at the Travelers. Just been one of these guys who was not on anyone's radar and has just pushed his way into the picture and kept the pedal down. If it was tomorrow, I'd pick Ben Griffin.
Shane Lowry, the vibes captain of Team Europe. I mean, I think there's nothing he can do that would end with him not being on this team for a whole host of reasons. He's great in the locker room, great with Rory, kind of loves the event itself, and he's obviously an extraordinarily good player.
We're getting to the area now where these spots are up for grabs very much on the American side. I'm going with Maverick McNeely. This spot could easily have gone to Harris English or Denny McCarthy or Jordan Spieth or Tony Finau, but another great putter, young energy, and again, this is sort of a who's gonna get hot, in the playoffs. These last 2 spots are very much up for grabs.
I'm going Justin Rose. His performance in the majors, but more than anything, his performance in the last Ryder Cup, I think has basically ensured that he's going to get this spot, barring 4 players, 3 other players maybe doing something really well. He's going to get the spot based on what he's done in the past as a kind of barometer for what he's going to do in the future.
Well, also, I think he fills that sort of like 40-plus like leader of the team, leader in the locker room, with the departure of the Sergios and the Poulters and the Lee Westwoods. He's kind of stepped into that role. My last pick, Keegan Bradley, number 9 in data golf. By the metrics, it's really not a hard call. And if he wasn't the captain, he would probably be right after Colin Morikawa on my list. If this was a pure golf decision, which it's not, I understand it's not a pure golf decision. There's a lot of politics involved. There's a lot of logistics involved, but. I think if the Ryder Cup started tomorrow, I think, a Scotty Scheffler, a Xander, a Justin Thomas, I think these guys might look at Keegan and say, buddy, we want you there. You're playing just as good as any. I mean, he just beat all of these, literally every single name on this list, I think, played last week, and he beat all of them. So it's not really a difficult conversation if it was just contained to golf.
Yeah, I agree. If I were Team USA, I'd lock on Keegan Bradley. Deserves it. My final pick, though, is Rasmus Højgaard. I mean, to be honest, this spot is fully up for grabs. I don't think Rasmus right now has done enough to ensure this pick. I think you could see him going with Fitzpatrick, someone with experience in this spot, because of how just like much left on the table there has been from players trying to inch that last spot. This is anybody's game from here. I was tempted to put Matt Wallace here, but Rasmus is now sort of by default, but I really hope someone steps up and seizes this spot.
I think that both of our top 10s, maybe with the exception of Aaron Rai, I think my top 9 and your top 10, 9 area are pretty much locked on at this point. So I'm looking forward to we'll probably do one more of these before the actual picks are made, but I think we're in a good spot, Luke.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dan. This was good fun.
I can't wait for it. All right. We are going to move on to Chirps from the gallery. A little bit light on Chirps this week, and I'm going to hit the honesty button for the first time. Here it is. The reason why, I'm just spending a lot less time on X, on Twitter. It's just, I've found myself, I actually like deleted the app on my phone. Yeah. So if I want to go on it, I have to log. I don't know. I just don't really see the utility in it as much as I used to, which is kind of sad because like Twitter used to be my baby. That was like what I cared most about. And I'm not saying it's because Elon is taken over or anything like that. Like I don't know. I feel like I'm not spending as much time on Twitter these days. So I'm not seeing these chirps because Twitter is where you go to like do funny stuff. Yeah. You know, we don't have that many chirps from like Instagram or TikTok.
I think I only go on Twitter to like read Chris Powers' tweets.
Well, that's what I do. Is I go on to look for chirps, but it used to be in the beginning of the year I would just find a million. Okay, this is what we kind of talked about. This was the inspiration I think for the blind ranking. It was very fascinating to me. So this is a list from 1979 of the Nielsen top-rated golf tournaments. The top 5 golf tournaments in 1979 as far as television audience. Number 1 was the Bob Hope Classic, which is the American Express, which is now not a big event. No. Number 2 is the Bing Crosby, which is the Pebble Beach event, which it's Pebble Beach. It still gets. Number 3 was the Masters. Number 4 was the Colgate Dinah Shore, which was played the week before the Masters. I think that's the women. It's the women's event. Yeah, that's the women's major. Number 5 was the Williams San Diego, which is the Farmers Insurance Open. PGA Championship, number 8. U.S. Open, number 11. So the Masters was number 3, and this wasn't like 1950. This was 1979. So my takeaway from this was celebrity golf. Maybe YouTube golf's always been a thing because like number 1, Bob Hope Classic, that's because of like Bob Hope and the celebrities. People still wanted to see that. Number 2, the majors over the last 45 years or whatever it is have done an incredible job of elevating themselves above everything else. Like if the PGA, that's a crazy list.
It's crazy to think that the majors weren't held in the same regard by the public as we do now.
They weren't at all. I mean, when Jack was playing, like the U.S. Amateur was considered a major. So the major conversation's only really solidified in the last like 40 years.
Shout out to the R&A, USGA, PGA of America, Augusta National. They worked hard for that.
They have worked really, really hard for that. Very interesting to me to see that list. Rory McIlroy seemed to have thought that Tommy Fleetwood had already won the tournament. He was doing an interview afterward, and he said, yeah, Tommy's been a great player for a long time, and he's more than due, or he was more than due. So, yeah, he's got so much talent and so much ability, and obviously it's great to see him get over the line. I don't know when that interview was conducted because he was never over the line. Maybe he hadn't seen, and the answer or the question was a little bit leading. But the good news is when Tommy does win, he can just say that again.
Maybe he meant he got over the bad line of his putt. He got over the line.
That's a nice spin zone there. I don't think that's what he was talking about. Matt Gannon, I wanted to give a shout out to this guy. Can we play this video? He's on the ground every single week.
I'll tell you one thing. The boots, they're not going to boots themselves. And as long as they let me out here, I'm gonna be out here. There's still a ton of guys grinding. Still a ton of guys acting like they didn't just play a U.S. Open at Oakmont last week. So we're here.
So he has a gambling website where he gives like on the ground insights, and he's at every. I think he's at every tournament.
He goes, yeah.
And he walks the golf course, and he tells his subscribers or his viewers what he sees with his eyes. And I think he's 24. We were talking at Bay Hill earlier, and he's just doing it. And I have a lot of respect for that.
Way to go, man.
Life on the road is difficult. It's not a Chirps from the Gallery without Chris Powers. He weighed in on the Tommy Fleetwood meltdown. We got a nice True Detective thing here. You shouldn't watch that. Nobody should watch this. Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey. So good stuff from Chris Powers. We're gonna leave you with clip of the week. Now this is from my what? Oh, we got another one. Oh yeah, we added this to the show late. Apparently there was an eagle, like an eagle made a noise before Keegan Bradley.
You gotta listen really close.
All right, I'm gonna be really quiet. Let's roll the clip.
With one putt.
A Keegan comeback, not to be believed.
I heard it.
Do you hear it?
I heard it.
Should we play it again?
Yeah, play it again.
Right before the putter is taken away, listen very closely.
Play it again.
With one putt.
Yeah. Is that
a Keegan comeback, not to be
believed? Do we know what eagle calls sound like? Like, are we sure that's an eagle call?
Well, Patrick McDonald said undebatable, or whatever word he said is definitely an eagle. It's so perfect. I wonder if it's a real eagle or if somebody was like playing it on their phone like really loud.
It was a majestic noise.
It was perfect.
It was a majestic noise. Okay, now we are going to leave you with our clip of the week. Before I get into the clip of the week, guys, thank you so much for all the support. Make sure you like and subscribe. This is awesome. We're going to do Wednesday again. We're going to do a little Wednesday live stream, and then we'll do the watch along again on Sunday. The clip of the week is from my time at Foreplay. I did a series where I caddy for pros. When I did it at Foreplay, it was called Side Gig. Now it's on the bag. I did one with Keegan Bradley, and we were talking about his upbringing and how, Keegan went to St. John's. He didn't go to Oklahoma State. He didn't get, PGA Tour. He didn't get sponsors exemption starts. He was really fighting up an uphill battle, and he would have had no chance to be a pro if it wasn't for a benefactor in his life. So we're going to leave you, Golf Sickos. We'll see you on Wednesday. We'll see you on Sunday. We'll see you next Monday here from the studio, and enjoy our clip of the week.
I had Q School was due on Thursday, and I had been trying to make enough money to pay for it, and I had gotten to this tournament and I couldn't pay.
How much was it?
$4,500. I had like $1,100 in my bank account, and I was in Houston, so you
weren't even close to having enough.
No, so I had to work up the strength to call my buddy Doc. I only have $1,100 in my bank account, and I need $4,500 to pay for this Q School, or what am I doing?
Right, because Q School at that point, it's your lifeline.
Yeah, and
you couldn't do another year of Mondays and mini tours would be tough.
No, and he wired me. He said no problem and wired me $6,000, and so then it was like such a weight off my shoulders.
Yeah.
And because I remember going, Doc, I called him, Doc, you gave me too much. He goes, no, just take it. And then that week in the Hooters Tour, I won that tournament, won 35 grand. And then from that moment to where I am now was a rapid, like it just changed everything.
How long was it from then until fucking winning on the PGA Tour and winning the PGA? Not long. You did 1 year in the Nationwide Tour?
It was a year and a half to winning the PGA, I'd say.
So you go in 18 months from having $1,100 in your bank account to being a major champion.
Yeah.
That's why guys don't give up. That's why guys keep at it for so long.
For sure.
Because they all feel, whether it's rational or not, that they can have that come up.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I never thought I wasn't gonna. People all around me didn't think I was. Even like there was random people that would tell me that I wasn't gonna make it. It's such a weird thing, and I think about now to tell a kid.